find them. Now, listen to my voice. My breathing is steady. I sound fully conscious. I'm not what you all think I am.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2023 horror drama Older Gods. The film is written and directed by David A. Roberts and it stars Ewan Coombs, Rory Wilson, Tim Wells and Jonathan Keeble. Now the film focuses on an American who, while coming to terms with and dealing with the guilt and loss of his close friend, he comes to England, at the Welsh Valley, I think it is, to kind of like this rural cottage to kind of unravel the mystery of the death of his friend. His friend has left him breadcrumbs to this mystery, he's left him video messages, he's left him lots of clues as to what he was doing and what he was looking into prior to his death. And as it turns out, what he was looking into and what he actually found was this cult, essentially, that deals with interdimensional beings and all this kind of stuff. It's very Lovecraftian, and this chap gets basically drawn in down the rabbit hole, and just as he thinks he has put to rest, you know, the guilt he was feeling towards his friend, and he's ready to go home to his pregnant wife, he gets drawn right in by this cult, and it becomes a fight for his sanity and survival. Right, what are my thoughts on Older Gods? Well, I think at the very core of this film, I mean, this is a very, very low-budgeted film. It's got a small crew. I think it was made during the pandemic. But what you've got here, I think, is quite a lot of talented people, because they've put on screen here, in many ways, a non-conventional horror. It doesn't, you know, follow the traditional and heavy tread tropes that you see in horror films. It's quite thoughtful, I think, in its approach. I think certainly fans of Lovecraftian horror are going to get some enjoyment out of this. I think traditional horror fans may struggle. It isn't necessarily for those. If there are horror fans out there that want to put a horror on and you're going to get, you know, reams and reams of jump scares and loads of gore thrown at you, you're going to be disappointed here, because this is not the approach of this film. It's much more cerebral, I think, in its approach. But it's not overly indulgent either, self-indulgent. Sometimes I'll watch like an independent film that tries to be really thoughtful, but it kind of it's a fine line sometimes to find the balance between being audience friendly or self-indulgent, so that you kind of end up losing your audience, if you like, sometimes, if they try and make them maybe too arty, that sort of thing. And I think this film balances that line particularly well. I really, really do. I think there are some that will watch this that will have problem with the pacing issues, because big chunks of this film is really just this character, this American in this cottage in Wales, essentially looking at a screen, listening to his friend, or looking at someone stood outside his cottage that appears to be stalking him. And then you see him quite a lot making phone calls and stuff like that, and maybe going for walks in the woods. And all of that is shot beautifully, especially the external shots and stuff. It does look pretty beautiful at times. But much of this film is set up, really, of this... if you like, you want it to get to kind of, at a phrase, the good stuff. You know, the interdimensional horror aspect of this film, this Lovecraftian aspect of this film. What is this cult? What are they doing? What are they trying to bring forth? And you get tantalizing snippets throughout the film. You know, you get some really unnerving visuals of this huge, almost like Cthulhu type creature beyond this next dimension that's trying to I don't know, it's trying to sweet talk this guy, basically, this American, into, you know, coming on board and becoming one of them and all this kind of stuff. It's trying to seduce him, really, in many ways. And and it does a really good job, I think, of kind of portraying all that. It so it's non-traditional in its approach, and it relies, I think, much more on a sense of mystery, a sense of foreboding, and dread. It leans more into that aspect of horror than the traditional, as I've mentioned, the traditional tropes that you get in horror films of jump scares, flickering lights, you know, buckets of gore, all that kind of stuff. It feels more grounded in its approach. And we've all seen time and time again, you know, horror films, you know, with untold groups of cults that we see in it. I mean, there's literally dozens every year of like horror films with cults in them. And this film, if you like, yes, it's got a cult in it, but you don't necessarily learn an awful lot about this cult. It's not really about that, this film. You just get this sense that nothing's right here. You know what I mean? I mean, there's actually one of the best scenes, I think, in this film for me as well was, it's not even horror related, it's the sense of distrust that this guy has where he's staying. There's a policeman comes to visit him after he reports what he thinks is a stalker outside his house. So the police come to visit him. Obviously there's nothing they can do. All seems very reassuring. And then he asks to see the policeman's ID. And it's a very simple scene, and the policeman just kind of glances up at him and walks off, pretty much, and says some flippant comment on his way out. So that it leaves you with that sense of doubt. Was that actually a policeman? Or was it not? Was it something else? Was it something more sinister? Is he part of the cult? And this is what I mean sometimes. You know, you'll see low-budgeted films, and they try and throw as many plot devices as they can at the screen, and they become confused and convoluted. But good writing goes a long way, and this film has got some good writing in it. Just little scenes like that just sow that seed of distrust and let you into this sense of vulnerability that this character is feeling. And at the very central core of it, it's a film that's also dealing with quite deep subject matter like loss and guilt and, you know, the emotions that we all feel after losing somebody close to us. And it's very clear that probably, I suspect, that the filmmaker involved here has experienced that, and he has wrote about it, and he's turned it into this movie. And it comes across very strongly when you watch it. So if you're looking for a little bit more of an intellectual horror film, a little bit more cerebral, don't get me wrong, this isn't going to scare the pants off you. There are some stirring visuals going on here and there. I think fans of, you know, Lovecraftian horror films will probably get a kick out of it here and there. But yeah, I think a lot of people might have a problem with the pacing, things like that. But for me, I couldn't really fault it a huge amount. Do I think it, you know, it could have leaned a little bit more into the commercial aspects to kind of please other audience members? Maybe so. But like I say, it's a very, very small budgeted film, and I think they've put every penny on screen. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll be back with more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.